Factory farming is a big issue for some consumers, and that's a commercial opportunity for the supermarkets. Now they can sell us more and more free-range organic poultry, even if it does cost more. Tonight, we thought we'd try duck, just for a change. But believe me, it's not the cheap option. These 4 duck breasts from Asda cost £8.40. And before making this programme, it never really occurred to me that ducks might be factory farmed too. From what I've learned, I'm beginning to doubt my choice. Ducks enjoying their natural habitat. Swimming is part of their genetic makeup, and in the wild they spend up to 80% of their time in water. These ducks had a lucky escape. As ducklings, they were liberated from a Norfolk factory farm. Now they live here at the Hillside Animal Sanctuary near Norwich. Thousands of other birds were not so fortunate. Buried away in the Norfolk countryside lies this anonymous-looking poultry farm. It's owned by Kerry Foods. They supply duck to many British supermarkets, including the Big Four, and the market for duck is growing fast. In February 2003, investigators from Hillside Animal Sanctuary secretly shot this footage. This is a Kerry Foods packaging plant. The duck farm is just down the road. Inside the broiler shed, there were dead and suffering ducks.
This is the 3rd dead duck. Duck number 6 is over here. Duck number 7 is over here. Another duck on its back here.
At the time, the farm was accredited by the RSPCA's Freedom Food Scheme. This means it had been assessed to see if it met strict animal welfare standards. One is that livestock should have freedom to express normal behaviour. But here, as in the vast majority of British intensive duck farms, there's no water for swimming.
If you're setting standards for the keeping of ducks, then one of the conditions should be that the birds have access to an area of water in which they can swim. All ducks ought to be provided with water in which they can swim. And if you don't do that, then you're not caring for them adequately.
Duck number 14, I haven't seen him.
The RSPCA's Freedom Food Scheme also says livestock should have freedom from pain, injury and disease. Yet some of these birds are suffering from septicemia, a bacterial stress-related condition.
Septicemia can come on over a period of a few days, and clearly some of those birds were in a rather extreme state where they would have been suffering a lot from the disease.
Outbreaks of disease are commonplace in intensive poultry farms. Under the Government Code of Practice, the birds should be systematically checked at least twice each day.
Those checks really need to be sufficient to pick out the bird which is in a bad way, the bird which needs to be taken out or the bird which needs to be humanely killed.
As soon as they discovered that the farm was accredited by the Freedom Food Scheme, Hillside investigators alerted the RSPCA. They immediately suspended the farm from their scheme, and Kerry Foods were prosecuted for causing unnecessary suffering to ducks. In their defence, Kerry Foods denied the charges in their entirety, maintaining that the birds had been properly checked by an experienced stockman. But because the footage had been obtained by trespass, the judge never saw this film, and she concluded,
"There can be no doubt that this company did have the birds' welfare in mind."
And Kerry Foods were found not guilty. So, did things improve at the Kerry Foods farm? Last July, investigators from Viva, another animal welfare group, secretly filmed there too.
Here we've got 2 dead birds near a feeder. Got another duck here, looks like it's a trap. been here for a while. This duck doesn't look too well. This bird is dying.
In the later visits, there were still birds which were sick. There were birds which may well have had the same disease condition, and there were quite a lot of birds which died. You would expect there to be some birds which die, but it would appear that there's still quite a significant problem if there were quite a few birds which were dead or dying on any given day when a visit was made.
We wrote to Kerry Foods about the conditions on their farm, and they gave us this statement.
The farm operates to the highest industry standards, and the company's trained stockmen and veterinarians uphold the highest husbandry and industry standards.
As Kerry Foods supply duck to all the Big Four, we also asked the Supermarkets Trade Association, the British Retail Consortium, to comment on the welfare concerns raised by the undercover footage. They said,
Supermarkets take the issue of animal welfare very seriously. It is a fundamental requirement of their suppliers. Any breaches in these standards are unacceptable and are always taken up with the producer.
I know that there are supermarket standards. Clearly, these should be enforced in such a way that we, first of all, make sure that the basic conditions are good enough and the needs are met, and secondly, that if there is a disease condition, that it's dealt with in a proper way so that there is a minimal amount of poor welfare in the animals.
And in case you're wondering, the RSPCA tells us that there are currently no British duck farms with Freedom Food accreditation.